She's back with us, folks. The one and only Ann Coulter, 13-time New York Times best-selling author and syndicated columnist. Go to anncoulter.com for her latest. Ms. Coulter, great to have you.
Good to talk to you, Buck Sexton.
So you got a piece, Ann's plan to end police shootings. Before you tell us what some of the aspects of your plan are, it is truly remarkable that I keep telling people, and whether it's on radio or on social media, the United States had a nationwide increase last year of 37% when it comes to homicides, which is mind-blowing. I mean,
it is the highest year-to-year increase in murder since they've been keeping records, at least 50 years.
And this is not a statistic that's on the tip of everyone's tongue. I mean, Ann, we had Biden in the speech this week talking about police reform. I want to be like, has everyone lost their minds?
Yeah, so the Democrats, this is always one of their desired outcomes. In addition to transferring control of everything to the federal government, the Democratic Party is staunchly pro-criminal, as I described in Muggs, taking mostly New York City through the era of the last time all these exact same policies were tried, the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, until the blessed, sainted Giuliani came in, and suddenly murders started to go down dramatically, to the point that I think by the end of Bloomberg, there were like 300 murders per year.
Yep.
It was something astonishing like that. When it had been in the thousands. In fact, I knew very well Biden's chief crime guy on the Senate Judiciary Committee when I worked for the Senate Judiciary Committee in the, I guess, early 2000s. And that he admitted to me, he did crime policy, that it was at least a quarter, it may have been a third, but let's say a quarter of the decline in murder across the nation came exclusively from New York City.
It went from around 2,200 and to about 300.
Yeah, with Bloomberg continuing Giuliani's policies, principally CompStat, certainly got guns off the streets. I mean, the low-level crime enforcement, the beauty part of that is not just what I think is most famous about it, the broken windows policy, when people see disorder around them and people, crapping on the sidewalks and broken windows, they feel like this is a lawless zone and, what the heck, I'll just mug this little old lady. So violent crime tends to increase with not enforcing quality of life crimes. Yeah, sure, that is absolutely true. But the other big advantage of enforcing, say, turnstile jumpers or crapping on the street is that young possible criminals who might have gone out with a gun that night will say, I think I won't bring my gun because I could be turnstile jumping. I'll get nabbed, and then I'm going to lose my gun. And so the quality of life crime enforcement vastly reduced guns from the street. Liberals pretend to care about guns. You want to get guns off the street, start prosecuting spitting on the sidewalk and crapping on the sidewalk and jumping turnstiles. No, I predicted in Muggs that as soon as Democrats got control of the levers again, it's like, husband and wife fighting over the temperature. As soon as you look away, suddenly the air conditioning comes on. Same thing with the Democrats and crime. You look away, they get control. We're throwing criminals out of prison, out of jail. I mean, as we talked about at the beginning of COVID, it's just emblematic. It's not. It actually is kind of a big thing. Releasing prisoners from jail because of COVID, as they're telling the rest of us to turn our homes into our jails. Don't leave home, don't leave home, don't leave home. Oh, but criminals, gosh, the last thing we want to do is keep them quarantined.
And some of them did end up, there were a number who went out and committed serious crimes and attacked people, by the way. Just in New York alone that happened, but I'm sure it happened in other places across the country. But to that end, and we're speaking to Ann Coulter, everybody, go to her latest, read her latest column at anncoulter.com on Ann's plan to end police shootings. which involves obeying police commands, not resisting arrest, things like that. I will second the notion that these are good ideas to do when you're dealing with law enforcement. But Ann, this is across the country. New York is the biggest city and the one that has, the numbers, as you pointed out, have the steepest decline in murders, and it's just mind-blowing still what was able to happen here over the course of about 10 to 15 years. But I was just in Austin, Texas recently, and I met with a friend there who's on the city council, and she said the people here this is in Texas, they're completely nuts. They defunded police $150 million. Guess what? The murder rate doubled. There are people, all the, human, refuse stuff going on in the streets all over the place. People, relieving themselves outside. They have more assault. Remember, murders are just the statistic it's hardest for them to hide and scare people the most.
Right.
But there's always everything. That's what's above the water. Then there's all the stuff, the rest of the iceberg below. And Ann, this is played out now in Chicago, St. Louis, Atlanta, Portland, Seattle. And how is the Democrats don't pay a price for this? I mean, how is Joe Biden in charge?
Well, Trump didn't make it easy to vote for him. We have to be clear-eyed about whose fault the presidential election was.
I was furious when he was trying to cave in the early days. I said, "Where is Trump? This was in June after the night of the purge here in New York, and you were spot on this one. I remember, and I was telling everybody, criminal justice reform." Now we get to hear about Jared's criminal justice reform. So, he has a few more people being nice to him at the $500,000 a year entry country club. Give me a break.
Right. And as we're finding out now, what is sending the Democrats' ratings the lowest is their fixation on race and phrasing everything in terms of race. And there have been a number of surveys and studies. Whatever the policy is, their decision is, well, we're going to pitch this in terms of, how it pursues racial justice. It's about race. That is driving the Democrats' ratings and public approval into the dirt. So I think it was a fantastic idea for a conservative network to keep attacking Joe Biden for supporting busing, or rather opposing busing. That was what Kamala, you will recall, attacked him for it. I think it was the first debate. And then after the debate, she admits she opposed the policy, too. Why? Because busing was hated by everyone. Black people, white people, everyone. Everyone hated it. And that's going to be conservative media's big attack on Joe Biden.
Well,
he opposed busing.
There was also the attack on Biden for the crime bill, which was not smart, given what was going on. Remember Biden?
Right. I mean, that is worthy of attack. I went to Washington not long after that. But the attack is it was an utterly useless bill that just funded a bunch of social service workers and, the Violence Against Women Act, which my law firm got declared unconstitutional because it was a magnificent ruling. There are plenty of reasons and a way to attack him. But I do not think this will play out well for the Democrats. I sort of don't want to be saying it on radio. I don't want to give the game away. But no, people don't like crime. The media are doing their damnedest to hide it, but you can't hide crime. I
mean, we had last year the highest rate of murders that the country's seen in over 20 years, which this isn't, a little bit around the edges or something. This is a sea change. We're speaking to Ann Coulter. Everybody go to AnnCoulter.com.
And it's going to take a while to catch them all again. I mean, part of what helped not to give Bloomberg his due for pursuing the Giuliani crime policies. And I hope Andrew Yang is paying attention to this, or whomever becomes the next mayor. By the way, the election, when is it? It's like June 22nd or something. It's coming up. It's coming up fast. Make sure your listeners know. I don't want another 12% of New York City voting in the mayoral, Democratic primary, the only one that matters, and then ending up with some boob that's going to, turn New York City into the next. I
hate when people say he has to be better than de Blasio. False. Actually, de Blasio's awful, false. But it could be worse. There's always
absolutely
worse.
False.
But some of the lunatic socialists that are running around now in the city council and other places, I mean, it could definitely be worse.
I mean, what I was starting to say is, and again, not to take anything away from Bloomberg, each year it gets better and better, just as under someone like de Blasio, Ed Koch, and then Dinkins. It gets worse and worse each year because the criminals you caught last year are still in prison. Yay, they're off the street. It's going to take, now that de Blasio has released them all, it's going to take a while to catch them all again.
And what is it going to take for people to also realize that the border, I was just down there, and
right.
all the Border Patrol, by the way, they everyone agrees with your assessment that the number, they actually laugh when people say, many members of Border Patrol I spoke to, yeah, they said, I've been here for 20 years, they'd say, it's been 11 million illegal immigrants for 20 years. Meanwhile, we're catching 150,000 a month, okay?
Yeah.
So someone explained that math, but beyond that, we had another number that doesn't get enough attention. Over 80,000 overdoses in the United States last year. And, I know it was a pandemic year, and that's one of the reasons why I was so opposed to lockdowns, because it was going to exacerbate this. But those drugs are all coming through the seams left in our southern border. People are dying of overdoses in New York and New Jersey and Ohio and Michigan and wherever because of the drug mules coming across the southern border, because our Border Patrol is giving everybody diapers and formula and trying to process them and put them on buses and planes to their family members who are also illegal. That's what's going on.
Well, one other reason for that is America got together and voted to put a completely preposterous human being in the presidency on the basis of a promise made at every single rally for 18 months that he would build a wall, and we did not get a wall. The American people are smarter than politicians. There are a few things, and very few as strongly expressed as the public's position on a wide open border. They have been begging for a wall for 40 years, and the politicians campaign on it, and, oh, no, we have something better than a wall. We'll put drones down. They vote for it, and then they don't fund it, and then it doesn't get built. They will not give us a wall. Trump wouldn't give us a wall. That's why he lost the election, in addition to many other betrayals. But that, of course, was the biggest one. There was nothing more associated with his campaign. There's a reason we wanted a wall. You don't have to pay unemployment. You don't have to worry about border agents getting killed. You don't have to worry about them getting in fights and lawsuits. A wall just sits there day and night, and Americans get to decide who comes in and who doesn't come in, and what drugs come in, and what dread diseases come in. As Trump said accurately, the one thing Republicans can learn from him, the one thing is these are popular issues. Run on them, but then this is what will be different from Trump. Don't betray your voters.
I got to tell you, the drone issue came up when I was talking to Border Patrol, and they said there was all this stuff about the Predator drones at the border, and everyone thought they said the footage was being uploaded a day later. So basically, these guys, they're not actually controlling it at the border. They weren't actually getting real-time updates. And so a day later, they'd find out, oh, that's where they ran the drugs through. Not exactly a highly effective system.
Even if it's working, what's the point? Unless we're going to drop bombs on them, and I'm not recommending that. I don't think anyone else is. I don't want to watch them breaking the law, whether it's in real time or even more absurdly, as you say, 24 hours later. They're going to keep rushing back and rush to this part of the border, rush to this part of the border. No, build a wall. And all respect, they're my favorite, probably, well, other than policemen, they're my favorite law enforcement officers, the border guards. But they're not, experts on how to keep people out. A wall does make many of their jobs obsolete. So just keep that in mind.
Ann Coulter, everybody, go to AnnCoulter.com for her latest column. Ann, always a pleasure. Great to have you.
Good to talk to you, Buck Sexton. Bye-bye.